One of the things I'd like to say to Annie at this stage is, Larry is dead, Annie. And you actually got the colour wrong. He was a
no,
white
but I knew
poodle.
the colour was wrong, and I tried to change it.
He was a white poodle.
He was almost white.
Sorry, Gay.
Let's not talk about the colour of the poodle.
No, but I did know it was.
Well,
was
I would like to recall an incident, Annie, that happened, if you don't mind, Gay, that I address Annie on this.
Yes.
An incident that happened the day after your baby was born. I visited you in the Rotunda Hospital, and on that day, you introduced me to a very handsome-looking man. Now, after that gentleman had left, you said to me, "That is the father of my child." I'm sorry, Annie, but that is a fact that happened.
No, I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree. I disagree with you because it's not the
I have a
truth.
very, very vivid memory of it. It's a memory,
Well, describe him, Pat, to
Well, I
everybody.
can't describe him because in actual fact, Annie, you have also a very handsome son, and it was the one thing I did state to myself, oh my God, he looks so like that man.
That is a lie.
Fine, okay. I'm not going to
Then
dispute that with you.
At that.
But if you're saying that's a lie, I'm afraid there's a lot of other incidents in that book that I actually could go into details with, but I'm not going to. But I will take one, which you have described in graphic detail, Annie, that the bishop, white-knuckled, etc., saw you off at Dublin Airport. Now, actually, on that day, and I'm sure you will remember this, I picked you up with my sister from Helena's house, also your baby, obviously, and we saw you off.
And who was standing when we went
Now,
down?
Sorry, Annie, I'll have to finish. It's on record in the diocesan office in Kerry. Bishop Casey had a meeting that day in Kerry. There was no possible way he could have been in Dublin with you.
You could doctor that. Bishop Casey said...
How can I mean, excuse me now, Annie, there's no way I can doctor diocesan records. I mean, there's no way.
Look, I went...
No, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, Gay, yes.
Just a minute. Sorry, love, yeah.
Bishop Casey said to me, I didn't want him to take me to the plane.
Airport.
I didn't. I was upset with him.
Yes.
He came to me that morning, and I remember distinctively, and we made up to the degree that we could make up to. He said, I didn't want him. He said, I took you into Ireland, I will take you out of Ireland. When I went down in a wheelchair, and I went down in a wheelchair...
You remember the wheelchair? Yes.
I remember Annie demanding the wheelchair.
Okay.
I
Well,
didn't
we
demand a
remember
wheelchair. I
wheelchair.
didn't want a wheelchair, for God's sakes. I wasn't a crippled. I did not. And Eamon was standing there holding the railings, and they were like metal railings, and he was saying, goodbye, Annie, and his hands were white. Now, this is my story. That is Pat's story. Okay?
I'm sorry, Annie. Now,
You said he wasn't there.
I am very positive. It's on record. Gay, actually, one final point. She did bring up the question of contraceptives there herself.
Yes.
Annie showed me, amongst and some of my friends, including my sister, very shortly after she came to Ireland, what she called rubbers. Now, I actually had never heard that expression before. And I will be very explicit, and she also showed me how to use them. Now, Annie, you know, and I know, that that is the truth.
My sister had brought over...
This was long before your sister came to Ireland.
How could I bring rubbers into Ireland? I didn't
There was
bring
no
rubbers
problem
into
about
Ireland.
bringing
Did
them
you?
in. I worked in London, I know that.
Please. I won't even dignify that with an answer, because it's not true.
Well,
I mean, Pat, go ahead, you know.
Well,
that's
Annie,
it.
can I put one through you? Father O'Keefe has 3 times, as you know, you were on Radio Kerry yesterday, Father O'Keefe has 3 times said, for example, that he was never in a situation where he drove the car with you and Eamon in the back snogging.
I had a brutal cold, and I was coughing. I had like croup. People can deny, and I expect them to deny. I don't expect anything else. And I was coughing, and Eamon had his arms around me, and he could do that to anybody. He was he was that type of man, and I had like a croup, and I couldn't stop coughing. I also had panic disorder.
Yes,
that went in and out of my life.
You had panic fits, yes.
I had panic disorder. And because fit sounds like
I'm sorry,
you're
maybe
giving
I shouldn't
me
have said fits.
something.
No, I beg your pardon. You have
That's
panic.
all right,
Yeah, okay.
And he was holding me. And he had been with me when I had terrible panic. And I felt like my windpipe was closing. And Father O'Keefe drove the car, and Eamon was in the back. Now, this was not, it was necking. It was
He
like
was just taking care of you.
taking care of you. Please don't lose it, because we're in the middle of the country.
Right. Well, Father O'Keefe says he has no memory of that. Furthermore, he wasn't his confessor. It's a small point, but you...
I said I didn't know.
You didn't know.
I
That's
didn't know.
right,
I
you
said
did.
maybe
You
he
did say
was.
yes. Okay.
He never told me who it was.
Which is Girlie, please? Girlie. Hello, Girlie. You wanted to make the point about the leg of the bed collapsing.
That's right, actually. My name is Veronica.
Veronica,
Yes. Annie mentions me in the book,
Yes.
which is obviously why I'm here. And I was a student in Dublin at the time, and she recalls an incident where I had invited herself and my sister Patricia, who was Bishop's secretary, and the Bishop, for a meal. Now, also present there was my brother and his wife. Now, I was in a a small flat, actually, one-bedroomed flat in Dublin.
Yes, in the book it says that Eamon said to you, Annie and I want to have a private conversation. We want to go into that bedroom. It's a private conversation. And you cleared out and let them in.
Well, in actual fact, I remember the incident well because it couldn't have happened. I had a flatmate who was in bed with a migraine all day. And I remember cooking that meal, and actually what I do remember, Annie, and I'm sure you remember this yourself because you were constantly doing it, you got up in the middle of the meal and went out and washed your hair and came back dripping wet. You know, that was the thing you were inclined to do at the time.
What, in the middle of a meal?
Oh, yeah, regularly.
A lot?
Yeah.
Excuse me, what
That's
did you
so,
say?
Annie? That you were inclined to get up in the middle of meals and go and wash
Well,
your hair
not maybe
and
in the
come
middle of
back?
meals as such, but you did wash your hair a lot.
You're doing it again
I
now,
washed my
Annie, you
hair
see.
once a day. I mean, I wasn't going in there washing my hair 5 times a day.
Okay,
No,
anyway,
I mean,
get back to the bed.
really making me
The
look...
incident did not happen, Gay.
It did not
It
happen.
did not happen.
There was
There is
no collapse of a leg of the bed
Absolutely.
and
There
propped
was
up with books.
no way. My flatmate was in bed. It
Your
couldn't have
flatmate
happened.
wasn't
But I
in
mean,
bed, and he did come in, and we sat on the bed, and the bed did break, and he took a few books and put them under there. Now it's
Well, I
you know,
suppose,
that's
Annie,
it.
I'm not
there was
here
no,
to
there was
score
no flatmate
I'm not
in
here
there.
to score points with you. I feel the whole image you have depicted in this book is dreadful. The man that you maintain you loved, you're depicting as a villain. You are the heroine, which is extraordinary all the time. I mean, you know.
I did not
the
portray
man
myself
we
as-
knew,
as
the
a
man
villain.
we knew as Bishop Casey was a very good, caring, compassionate man
I bring that
who
out in it
loved
too.
people. Also, you depict him talking about people behind their back, saying things about them. He wasn't capable of doing that. He just wasn't. He never used bad language. He did not cheat at poker. All the things you say about him, he was not that type of man.
He
and
was
you know
teasing
that
in
very
poker.
well, Annie. You know that very, very well.
I said he
I suppose it sells, you know, money is always... I'm very surprised at a man of the calibre, or maybe I shouldn't say calibre because I don't actually know the man, but such a high-profile man as Peter de Rossa, really writing the type of rubbish that's in that book. The lies that are in that book. I mean, and that is reality. We were there, we know.
But you weren't there all the time.
No, I wasn't there all the time.
I didn't know that you were there all the time.
No, I
I
wasn't
saw
there
you
all the
very
time.
infrequently.
We have an extraordinary situation, Gay, where this child is supposed to be conceived in a 2-seater Lancia in a gravel pit in Dublin.
In Lucan.
In Lucan. The historical records show that the bishop did not have a Lancia at that time, and I've checked that in great detail. He had a Mercedes, which subsequently changed for a saloon Lancia. Then we have the amazing situation where there is a full moon on the 31st of October, 1973. A small point, a nearly full moon. You check with anybody like Dunsink, and you find that that was the time when the moon, in point of fact, was at its lowest ebb, and the night was completely overcast.
But there was a moon.
It was overcast, my dear, with the meteorological
was a moon.
office. There was, but hidden behind a completely cloudy, overcast sky.
was
So we
a
have
moon.
this extraordinary
You're not
phantasmagorical
any of you
story.
disputing that there was an affair between Annie Murphy and...
No, there was some relationship with Annie Murphy.
It's the way she depicts them, and
Yes.
it's the lies. In fact, Gay, can I make one final point?
Yes.
There is one sentence of 3 words in that book that I know is true, and that is, Larry hated people.
That's her dog.
Who's Larry?
The dog.
The dog.
She mentions
Larry liked
them. She
them.
mentions them. She mentions them. in
Larry
both.
liked a lot of people, but he was particular in who he liked.
But just to go back to Patricia, you've made a serious allegation about the
yes.
other man,
Yes,
Patricia.
Gay, yes.
Are you telling me that you're convinced in your own mind that
I
Eamon
am, yes,
Casey
Gay.
was never the father of this child?
Very convinced, Gay.
You're convinced
Now, can I also state that there are other people besides me, and Annie is aware of this, who also knew of that relationship. I'm not the only person.
And this
Are you saying that what Bishop Casey came out and said,
I'm not denying that, Annie. I've never disputed that he has accepted that he is the father of the child. I'm only saying what I feel.
and do you think
Yeah.
that maybe I could have put up somebody else, and I never, ever, ever, never told anybody, I never told you who you're trying to say that I named the
I'm
person.
sorry, Annie. My memory is very vivid of that, and I can't. I'm not
Fine.
going to go into a harangue with you because that isn't the way I work.
Okay. Let me finish by asking you, Annie, when did you last see Eamon?
In August of 1991.
91. That was the last time. Mm. Do you hope to see him again? He has said that he will. He has said that he will contact Peter and he will try to develop some sort of relationship with Peter now. But do you?
No, that would be entirely up to Eamon. I would have no say in that. That would be entirely. If Eamon wanted to say something to me, whether it be good or bad, then I would see him, but I would not seek him out. No.
What would you say to him if you met him? Do you think?
I would wait for Eamon to speak with me, and then I would have to take it from there.
Okay, the book is on the record. Presumably, it will become a movie in due course.
That will. Go ahead.
Or a mini television series or whatever. Looking at that now, what is your, in summation, what is your feeling at the moment? Are you filled with sadness about the whole thing? Do you regard it as a tragedy?
I think it is sad in the aspects that if Eamon had come forward just a little bit and had maybe seen Peter 2 or 3 times a year, this could have been avoided. And I think that's sad. I didn't expect for this to be easy. And I expect that people that are around Bishop Casey would rally around him as I would any friend.
Yes.
I would. I had a friend that was in tremendous trouble, and I rallied around her and gave the best support I could. But I told the truth as I saw it, and there were some things about it that were not terrific in that situation, and but I gave the good parts.
I happen to think that Bishop Eamon took bad advice when he decided to leave the country. Do you?
He might not have been able to help himself. He might have just been told to do it, and I was surprised. I thought he would stay, to be honest with you.
Okay, it sure is a tragedy, and it's a sad story no matter how you look at it. Thank you for telling us of your
I just
life.
want to say one thing.
Could we have your, sorry, folks.
I
please,
think
go
that, you know, people have, everybody's going to have an opinion, and Eamon is a great man with some defects, as we all are. Like Mike Twain said, every man has a dark side to him in the moon. But don't forget, Eamon harangued me and bothered me to the point where I could never have another child again. And he did say to me, you know, those adoption papers were there. And I'm not saying to end that on a bad note. I actually felt bad for him. You know, I felt sad for him that he would feel that necessary to be actually kind of almost that afraid. And I'm not saying that he was cruel.
He would say he was doing that, Annie, because he didn't have faith in your capacity to look after the child. That's what he would say.
And so I should never have another child. I could never have another child.
I'm only telling you what he would say.
And how do you know that?
I just know that.
You do? Okay. But I have brought that child up well.
Yes, you have.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. The child I gave my heart,
Yes, you
body,
have.
and soul. And he is, people will tell you he's a good child, and, you know, and I think my child is, if I've done, I have brought somebody into this world that hopefully will continue to do good, and who has been a very good friend to people and has tremendous, he's a very good boy. So he was wrong in that respect.
Is he Eamon's child?
Yes, he is.
Well,
And you could put me in a firing squad, and I'd say he is Eamon's child. I have been, you know, I've taken very little out of this book. If there is a movie, God knows, you know, there have been there are no movies, you know, but there have been inquiries. I will treat that movie the same as I have this book. I will take practically anything. I will take nothing from it except if I lose work. I've always worked. I will work from 3 years from now. I'll come back and you'll see that I still work.
okay.
All right, that's all I have
Let's
to
end
say.
with a note and say, if your son is half as good a man as his father, he won't be doing too badly.
I'm not so bad either,
Will you
Mr.
settle
Byrne.
for that? Settle for that, Albert. Will you settle for that?
I'll settle for part of that,
Settle
but
for
I will
part of
a
that.
part of that, but also I'm not so bad myself
Okay.
as you'd like
Agreed.
to think.
Agreed. All right.
All right?
Thank you for coming on.
Thank
the
you.
show. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Coming up. Okay.
The Late Late Show returns in 2 weeks.